I have not even let anybody know that I was going live. Um, Thought maybe I would do some of these again because, well, I've always felt a kinship with artists. And let's see, maybe I will see if anybody decides to join, but they may or may not. I always prefer when people are here. Oh, hello, whoever you are. Glad to have you. So I think I'm going to make something called a Midnight Sass instead of a Midnight Mass series. Um, so I've been reading portions of this. This is Eugene Ionesco's some of his journals. These journals, this is a later part of his journal. Also, I'd like to share with you a little something I'd written that I actually even framed, but I'm not quite sure it was appreciated by anyone else, but I think you all will. So it's a little verse that I've not shared. It's up on my Facebook page. So it's called Elemental. We are a tapestry of waves, sounding salutations and sonar, targeting hearts and minds, each a bell or a bullet, a voice of longing. So here we go. Fragments of a journal from by Euegene Ionesco, written by. Just opening to a random page. The greatest crime of all is homicide. Cain kills Abel. That's the crime par excellence. And we keep on killing. I have to kill my obvious enemy, the one who is trying to put me to death, in order that he shall not kill me. In killing him, I find relief, for I'm obscurely aware that I have killed death. I'm not responsible for his death. I can feel no anxiety on that account. If I've killed my adversary with the approval of the community, that's what wars are for, to enable one to kill with a clear conscience. By killing, I exercise my own death. The act of killing is part of a magic rite. When the Germans killed the Jews, they did so with a clear conscience, for they killed in self-defense. Weren't the Jews going to exterminate or conquer the entire world? Weren't they corrupting the health and morals of an Aryan race, which is another form of murder, sustained by an ideology derived from the genesis of the 19th century by the Englishman Houston Chamberlain, for the Comte de Benu, and the more rudimentary French racialists of the 19th century, using furthermore than furthermore the more recent and sorry using furthermore the more recent and concrete examples of Russian pogroms. Pogrom is a Russian word, a Russian action, and the Soviet death camps adding to this their own cruelty. The Germans felt themselves justified. Anti-Semitism is not of German origin. Polish, it is Russian, Polish, French. I won't go so far as to say that the Germans were simple-minded sheep gone mad, but they had antecedents from elsewhere. It's often the case in life, isn't it? With contempt and dislike and hate. It's always from elsewhere. Almost always. This feels a little bit, no, that's getting personal, but the Germans felt themselves guilty only when a vaster community denounced and condemned them. Permission to kill had lost its mystique. They no longer had the approval of everyone else. At that moment, the whole German nation felt like a single individual condemned by society, indicted by an assembly of all the nations. It is true that their explosion of hatred for humanity was something authentically and objectively guilty. I feel a horror mingled with a sort of admiration for those who assume the responsibility of killing all by themselves, of deciding to live a murderer's life, the free shooters of death, such a professional gunman. What courage, what defiant strength. Such people have no superego. You know now that existence means aggression. We know too that society is divided, that the different social categories war on one another, that each social category has a clear conscience, since it is a collective unit. In an absolute sense, no social category has more reason to have a clear or a guilty conscience than any other. To destroy the clear conscience of a social category and strengthen that of one's own category is the aim of propaganda. Tame, more perspicacious, and deeper than Karl Marx had already shown that the aristocracy succumbed because it had become aware that it had lost its usefulness. The nobles abdicated. The night of August 4th, etc., the collapse of class is only possible when the class gives up the struggle. Of course, it may subsequently regret its abdication and realize that others have no better reasons than itself for etc. David Reset has shown us that a concentration camp is a society like all existing societies, like all social organizations. A concentration camp, a society in its essence, in its quintessence. Kafka again described concentration camps before they existed. He knew. I'm going to leave a little Easter egg in this video, a little portion of my own journal. I found it a couple days ago. I'd forgotten really that I had done this, which is somewhat sad because I've forgotten much about my wedding day. Because sadly, you know, sometimes things don't quite go the way you would like. And I've not wanted to really look at it because well, now I kind of want to look. Now I'd like to look at it because I want to remember sometimes sometimes you don't have to follow rules that you laid out for yourself when betrayal takes place because you didn't choose that. And so we don't always do what we wanted to do and aim to do. And often that's because other people don't really admire and respect it. But that's okay because you do. But I never want to forget that this was my innocence. And that's okay. It's okay that I hope I feel this way again one day. So this was June 25th, 2024. Our wedding day was on July 6th. And you're supposed to leave that evening and everything, and typically it took us extra long because, we were trying to, at the time I thought it was great that we had an experience where it was an adventure, a journey. And I even had some pretty funny moments. And, that's the thing. I think that I appreciate those things so much more than many people do, that when these things happen, when these magical moments that happen, I know that they're gifts, and to squander them and to lose them is basically to forget God and to forget the divine and to forget, well, everything. And that's who I am. And I think that's the number one reason that I've made a decision that, you know, I want to see what else is out there for me, as hard as that may be, because I want to know that there's other people out there who are like me that appreciate this, like so much so that they wouldn't dream of, I guess I'm trying to protect my magic. I don't know if that makes any sense. It does to me. Anyway, I think sometimes it's all right to say, I did my best, and I want to keep doing my best. I want to see what happens when next time and hope that I'll feel more seen and appreciated somewhere else. And I know that sounds maybe catty and petty, but there was never any real honor going into this. I mean, sure, there's could have been divine intervention, but you know what? That's been squandered so many times. I don't need to hold on to it. God doesn't expect that of me. It's not my, can't say I didn't try and I didn't mean it. And that's good. So here, so I wrote, and this again is a little Easter egg. Call it Florida Adjacent Dawn, inspired by the name of a short story I was playing with for a long time. So Last Dawn, and by the way, I was finding myself writing like this, and I was just almost just like that, and it felt like I was playing an instrument, and I was sitting at the balcony of that home that I loved so much. It was such a wonderful memory there. I want to find a place like that for me again, and I did it once. I could do it again. It made me feel that way. It made me feel that home, and that's okay to want. It really is okay. I know what I want. I've said it. And I also feel kind of like I was dropped off in sort of this like alien culture that I've been trying so hard to be understood and adapt to, and I don't feel like it's adapted or met me. I think it might just be the environment here. I think St. Petersburg is not for me at all. And I I was pretty much ready to leave before I was going to go to Spain for a little while actually before I met my husband. So I think that it's reasonable for me to say it's okay for me not want to be here if I'm not feeling it's just too much work with no appreciation at all and too much hurt. But I love him. So hopefully this will end well. But I'm being authentic here about this, and I shouldn't probably be babbling about it. But you know what? I don't really think it's anything wrong to say. Thanks, Jane. But you know, Jane, it's funny. The saddest part is I. It's also, you know, when I say something, I meant my vows, and one of my biggest vows I made to him was I wanted him to always say, I wanted to say, trust thyself more than trust me, and I can't live give him that. So, and things here, I'll tell you, it's crazy. I'm experiencing things in a culture here. Just, it's not. I'm a fish out of water. And I've learned a great deal and I'm applying it to my work. But I want to just share the magic that was here, that original moment. So it was a beautiful moment. I wrote Last Dawn in Florida as a single woman. Next one I'll see, I'll be a wife. 2024, the number is unimaginable or unthinkable the last time I recall thinking about this moment. Not that I imagined it in Florida or as it came to be, but still the moment is so close. And I could feel myself changing or finally easing into something I wanted or almost wanted or feared I would never have since but this morning first. This morning at 6:45 a.m., I stepped out on the balcony that adjoins the bedroom that we share in this two-story 1920s beach house, just minutes by foot from the beach as the birds sing, and I'm back on Fire Island, but so much better. I remember when the Indian astrologist said, you were supposed to be married at 23, Jesse. I remember the anger that rose up in me as if he was saying it was my failure that my love was treated so trivially and superficially. I think ever since, or maybe even before that, was my biggest worry, really. More so than being alone, just what I thought it was. There's something both understandable and human and natural, but also divinely familiar. To not be loved while you love. That hits a little bit. Good God, you are something, aren't you? I could run down and take photos of these clouds, but no. Once that would have been unthinkable sacrilege. How could I now? This is my instrument. It has been for a long time. My harp, my lyre. As I gaze around me, the words flow through my fingers, and I see things, exquisite things, a cloud so bright and big. It is as if it's a castle in the distance, and all the clouds around it are pointing me to see where majesty is. They've frozen like a painting just for me so I can see and hold and remember. And if I could paint, I would paint, but it's black and white and silver and gray and golden to the west. Love the sea with blue and that moon and the sun behind me while the money clouds drift like they were once touched by fire. Fireproof. I see souls of animals playing and joining him. I see her with him swirling unexplainable, just a glimpse I could never explain to anyone, not really. The world, the firmament is still and poised in fullness of me, as if to say, yes, it's real. Yes, it's true. And I see you, see me, and he will understand and not be foolish. And my God, it's gorgeous right now. The trees, I see you. And in the north, when I go north, they will be glad to see me. I am their girl. These have been my hosts, and the birds, always the birds seem to sing and call in their forest tones. The tune I know, Eros. Go, 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 embraced by love, always. Butterflies and milkweeds, mommy and daddy, Mohawk, Fire Island, my loves. I am so grateful. I'm proud of myself, my imperfect self. And that flight was so, it could have been a much darker path I took. And that fight that was so, it could have been a much darker path I took. I think that conversation was a glimpse of what I would have been surrounded by had I stayed. My sensitivity to it would have snuffed my spirit. And I knew not to stay, that it would have been a lie, that I knew there was more to see and be and learn and find. And I ask you, God, let us find the freedom to be just as fearless so we can love you always and not ever again feel like victims, frozen people, just ash and blackened fingerprints of a terrible moment that didn't need to live on and on and on because you unfold for us and you lay down. So we lay down upon you tuck us in as best you can without how hard it must be to show such restraint, to not reveal yourself always over and over, how much you must want. Mourning dove, solitary, watching me, watching you, my husband to be loves birds just like me, his voice familiar. A family tree with two new branches that can create the possibilities are endless with your help. Even if we are not with all the time I wish we have all the time to make it rich with your wish, desire, and our will. We will, John William Ingle and me. I see her floating, horn blowing, facing east, June 25th, 10 days past my 46th. Psalm 47 as the sprinkler begins to feed the flowers. We are poets, some of us, kindred, and you are visible to us in a way like no other. No wonder you love us and hold us. I see a lamb, a lion, a world, a goat, a dance, separation out from a singular point of light. So bright, I know it must be the sun reflecting, but no, it's not. East. It's west at dawn. How can that be? Did you spin the world a bit just to say hello to me? I see the squirrel. I see with a smile. Give me the time I need to make time. Feel enough to be ready today and rested and present in all you unfold on this, the day I know my wedding day began. July 6th is so close. And the 4th will always be where independence and interdependence and light out of dark, making light grow and blue, brighter and magic and romantic and surreal. And I love you so much and love everything you've ever shown me and more. This sky right now, I won't forget to look as I write again, not miss out again. How the sea and the sky really are a mirror. The beauty in the moon, there she is. One glimpse for breakfast. I love you too. Amazing. Thank you. More, please. It's so wonderful. I'm sorry. Keep going. It's amazing. How can the firmament be like this? It's as if it was just for me, for we. I am for my beloved, and my beloved is for me. I am my beloved, and my beloved is me. Love is a choice. Love is a choice. Love is a choice. God paints with light and smoke and shadow, and I hold. And remember, I see you. Yes. See you soon, moon. Thanks for holding me. I was right then, and I'm right now. Should I keep going with my personal journals a little bit? Or is that enough? Someone say something. Well, okay, Jane. How about this? There's a side note. I decided that I was gonna I couldn't continue tonight, and I just think I needed to see that and see exactly what I said there because I know that if I stayed, it would be the same thing. So, man, this one's a doozy. Um, how about I read from a short story that I wrote in 2016. That's pretty timely now. Um, it's kind of creepy. So sometimes when I write, I tend to have this very strange, I guess you would say, how do I put this? Well, things can seem a little bit prophetic, I guess. I know that sounds a little strange, but um, it does happen. Um, this one is pretty down, frighteningly so in some ways. But I mean, it's not frightening. It's kind of cool, but it happens. And I have been thinking about actually, if I published it, it would begin this way. So the name of the series would be called Jacinth Song. And jacinth is a gemstone that was on the temple floor was torn. So it begins with a poem. So it would be on the first page is the way I'm thinking to do it this way if I ever did. But I'm weird about publishing. I basically would have to be asked if I wanted to do it. I don't know why. I don't do things to do it. Otherwise it would feel inorganic. But I would have this poem by E. Cummings be the first. And it's titled You Are Tired. You are tired, I think, of the always puzzle of living and doing, and so am I. Come with me then, and we'll leave it far and far away. Only you and I understand. You have played, I think, and broke the toys you were fondest of, and are a little tired now. Tired of things that break, and just tired. So am I. But I come with a dream in my eyes tonight, and knock with a rose at the hopeless gate of your heart. Open to me, for I will show you the places nobody knows. And if you like, the perfect places of sleep. Come with me. I'll blow you that wonderful bubble, the moon, that floats forever and a day. I'll sing you the jacinth song of the probable stars. I will attempt the unstartled steps of dream until I find the only flower which shall keep, I think, your little heart while the moon comes out of the sea. And then the next would be good with my writing, which is a poem called I'd say No Visitations. I know most of it by heart, but just in case. I heard a story once. It shouldn't be believed. Or maybe it was that it should, but should never be shared. Or maybe it was a bus. Timetable and fares muddled. Became a story, as the mind is off to do, of a graveyard. A mass grave with no markers, no names, where people piled 12 deep and miles across are splayed crisscross or just and tongue-tied around each other. It is said that there are no visitors. A sign says so in gentle block lettering, no visitations. And were a curious person to walk in anyway to see if this tale is true, nothing would be found, not even under stones. Here, they say, it's a place where even the birds respect the silence demanded. For what a killing it is indeed that brought them together. It is a place beyond wishing rest, where sleep is done softly, wide-eyed. The buried are not to be missed, or mourned, or cried, why for, in this place? Here, the secrets are too old for words, too sacred for memory, and too fragile to know. So they said, what a ridiculous thing, a story like that. But it's said that just before a kill is made, all voices gone before can be heard by a few, their speech only for when they offer this comfort, weirder and more true than any other, that it is known that a mass grave, miles splayed, crisscrossed, lie, the tongue-tied, bound to each other, bones locked in solidarity for all time. Jason's Dawn, the Jason song series. It's been 15 years. Jane, I'm not going to comment. It's not exactly it's not about the Holocaust or anything. I'm just going to say it's not. But that's where we begin the story. So, Jason's Dawn. It's been 15 years since the killing. By the way, a little background. The whole story is eventually going to be, the whole theme is about the birth of AI. That's what it is. It was written in 2016. It's been 15 years since the killing. No one knows for sure how the events that started the series of broadcast mass deaths got its name. In some part, this is because the interconnectivity across the globe that humanity had grown so accustomed to, the interwebs, was destroyed by the actions of one or perhaps many about 3 months after the first death seared into the eyes and consciousness of so many people. In a global world that had been would assure peace, not shared devastating trauma. It began, of course, in the Middle East. Not as many would have thought, but how many already knew was quite likely. Yet, deniability is one of humans' greatest feats of survival. Well, most humans use this technique. And this is why the killing happened. And this is why it cascaded on and on as thousands died live before people's eyes. It seemed more and more acceptable. The first one was important, however. The first in a series always is. This happened in Saudi Arabia under the watch of the nation's royal family. This happened during the millions of devoted Muslims' yearly pilgrimage to Mecca and their ritualized circling around the cube, which some allowed the claim to be held as truth, came from another world. This lie was the lie that made all lies as obsolete as the idea of a pet rock. The scale, or mass, of humans dying, aired across the globe on TVs and internet videos, were beyond all human experience to observe and survive. No living thing is meant to be seeing death on such a mass scale. Not even vegetables or trees tolerate it without stress hormones coursing through their root veins and out their leaves. Imagine being the lone fish washed upon a shore, seeing hundreds of thousands of your fellow scale kin dead, and somehow finding your way back into the water. That's the closest comparison. Wide eyed and alive, gills beating to a rhythm it never would have been prepared for by its school or existence as fragile, although often described as quite delicious when piled upon a piece of toast during a special occasion, egg. Amongst the few who survived, statistically few when the numbers of dead are even partially tallied, no one could seem to bear counting past 20 million in 3 months. There's a single woman living in the city that once never slept. She also happened to be there when two towers fell to the ground, yet miraculously, instead of 30,000, only about 3,000 lives were ended that day. Her name is Ava, and she lacks any sort of skills that would be useful in a time after the killing. Her greatest talent and ability to see connections and remember how words and language is strung together doesn't provide her with much tradable talents to offer. In fact, her abilities to remember make her more terrifying to those who walk the urban woodlands that have taken over the city she once loved to call an urban forest. For example, she remembered the number 30,000 from September 2001. She also remembered that the people not liberated from camps in 1945 included one mass pile of corpses filmed by English soldiers who, along with American soldiers, first stepped into an extermination camp and found 30,000 corpses stinking the neighborhood town, wafting toward and around them for miles before they reached the gates with the words Arbeit macht frei arching over them. She wonders if it smelled at all like the city did when she was 22 and two buildings disappeared on top of people who mostly were her age. She wondered also if there was any way those interned in those camps found a way to end their torture and do their own form of jumping and finding the bliss of free fall instead of a tortured, prolonged, agonizing death. She is smart enough to know that this, while a nice notion, was quite unlikely. The surest form of torture is to deny the option to choose to die. Evil is often masked with religion, but it almost never is the symptom of religion, but rather the tool of a few men who, as unique as she is, can see and manipulate connections. That, interestingly perhaps, was also what made the killing so unimaginable and terrible and destroyed more human lives than the deaths did. Walking Dead are less animal than Gollum. The killing was not a surprise to her. She had said so many times, even before it happened, that it would not surprise her. She even tried to warn, or at least make people question the logic in what seemed to be a spiral toward death defying cruelty. Even after few would tolerate listening to her saying so, she tried sometimes, more and more rarely. But she knows that her words fell on deaf ears, and there's personal responsibility in that. At least for her human condition, there is. She feels unforgivable. So now she hides, alone, unable to end her own slow death. The killing spared her, and somehow she knew that was inevitable as well. Some are meant for killing, some for watching, and others are witnesses. Ava is one of those failures who had to witness. She also knows she must not let anyone indulge, including herself, in asking why. For example, no one asks why the Library of Alexandria was burned to the ground, its books lost for all ages in ash. She knows that once upon a time killing arenas were a spectator sport, and while many made violence more humane, the desire to watch death remained in the den of many human beings, and therefore entertainment crisscrossed and danced tiptoe most of the time on a line where, with just a small misstep, death was suddenly the winning or hottest ticket, the greatest show in town. A thing everyone accepts because it seems everyone accepts it. In fact, she knew that animals were considered more humanely than even she would be by many of her fellow species. Animals are more quickly spared such things that humans are expected to tolerate: cages, experiments, abuse, cruelty for sport. Killing an animal is no longer popular mass entertainment, but killing a human is far easier to swallow for her species. For reasons unknown, there was always there always included a lust for watching death in her corner of the animal kingdom. Cockfights or dogfights are scorned, but killing a human, it's easy. She's always known to justify why human would deserve to suffer. So why not? Is a common question. Why is rarely asked because it's simple to say an animal is always innocent. Perhaps even if it's decided to eat you for supper, some human would rather you lie down, belly upward, than strike down the predator that wants to digest your delicious liver or kidneys. Sometimes this made her wonder if she was part of the human race, which is a very awkward question for a human being to ask. It's also not looked upon as a very smart thing to say. It's generally regarded as insane, and that, if you're lucky, she's found herself saying a time or two to a pigeon that would listen. And this, she once thought, was why so many feared her, because she saw how inhuman humans were allowing themselves to be. And that made all the difference. And it also, she knew, always did. It's simple, but not easy to accept this. The why never mattered, and it never would, despite the need for some minds to make sense of it, as if understanding such cruelty would ever really stop it any more than understanding a bear would stop it from mauling you. Perhaps you could ask if it was brown, black, or white, perhaps even black and white, but that's about it. Is the bear vegetarian or omnivore? If the latter, the only question is, why aren't you running after turning in the other direction and not wondering if the bear deserves to have you for lunch because it's hungry or maybe has mouths to feed in its den at home? One should never feel they are a privileged class to serve themselves to a hungry thing. Even those who would insist that turning your back on the poor hungry bear family was selfish, they wouldn't offer themselves as the bones little twin cubs would gnaw on after saving the cornucopia their body provided. They may insist, however, that you should be giving thanks for the opportunity to provide life-saving nourishment to bear family. Bears, she's been allowing herself to feel quite luckily, have not found their way into the streets of Manhattan. However, rumors abound that they've been seen crossing over bridges from upstate and even perhaps swimming across the Hudson. But bears are the least of her worries. And that's the end of chapter 1. And the next pages have the following poem also, or statement, that's titled Words of My Generation, Generation Y, in honor of all those who embrace why without answer and then focus on they will instead. Why then the world's mine oyster, which I will with sword open. Shakespeare. Those who claim we are destroying the earth once claimed there were people destroying their God. Those who claim all religions are the source of ills once claimed that all godless were the source of illness. Beware the benevolent trends. They destroy the forest before the medicines even get a chance to first grow. Beware those who claim why the creations have become less bountiful. Beware those who call you thief, that the gate was opened like a mugging, and the green stolen, denied now to you forever for the crime. Beware of the word misused, reused, or recycled. Beware of those who deny new language to invoke change. They drain the waters as they always have. Beware any who claim ownership of language. Beware those who say beware. Be aware of words used, the poetry of linguistics, not the logic of the false critics and mystics. Mind the gaps between age, ages, and so-called sages. Not all explorers are courageous or wise. Experience is often wasted on the inexperienced. Be bold enough to welcome the return of authority. Beware the blamers, for they are the victims of another age's benevolence. Give them soulful pity, but no mercy. Assume that not only the survivors survive. Beware the anointed victims. Beware the music induced, not introduced and received in the slow dose of ordinary perception. No one knows the mind, mindful or empathic, until they know their own. Pay them no mind until you've learned your own. No one can walk in anyone else's shoes until they've walked in their own. Beware those who elevate empathy above kindness. Beware those that say silence always is golden, or it speaks more than words can say, or talk is best done slow, for they never knew the unleavened word. They were the keepers of the grandest inquisitor's tools, too horrific to word, left to the world of the wordless. Beware those who choose by committee. Beware the children of democracy. Beware those left to create with only excuses made for creation and call that art. Beware the time when musicians or games are heard and seen only in solitary boxes and not shared between people. Joy shouldn't be contained or created with false friends, for that is a festive famine, obeying a vegetable law. Beware those who value introversion more than solitude. Beware the ones who long to be numb. Beware those who say you must understand that you will not or never be understood. Beware those who don't have the conditions to suffer, for they will strip yours away and demand thanks for it. Beware the ones who teach well, but were not taught well, for they don't know the value and the safety they've shown you in self-reliance. They will never see their hands relocating the chains from themselves back onto you. Be aware, for they will betray the law of lessons. Beware the promise of free love, for it is the most costly of deceptions. Without even an offer made to partner Dionysus with Apollo, no manner of manners will save, no loving will ever serve when everyone is free to choose slavery. Signed, J.D. Training Manual 2. So that's part of the story. What do you think, Jane? Should I try to keep going eventually? Anywho, it's it's one of those nights when I'm very grateful for you to join me. Sometimes I offer a chance to recite somebody's favorite poem or something that they really like. Is there anything you'd like to hear me read before I go? I'll give you a few more seconds, Jane. Well, for everybody else, I will close it with a kind of more upbeat thing. Just want to share. It's a great story. It's called How to Talk to a Tiger. There's a village in New Guinea where every morning the first thing that family does when they awaken is to sit and listen to everyone's dreams from the night before. They share all they saw and experienced as they slumbered. If a dream was a nightmare, the family tells one another what must be done. Once, a child told his family that he didn't want to share his dream, that it was too horrible, nothing could be done. They insisted and said he would not be given breakfast until he told them. The child reluctantly said, I was being chased by a tiger, and over the tiger would catch me and begin to devour me. First started with my leg and the next my arm, once even my throat. Nothing can be done about that. This is what you do the next time your tiger comes for you, the parent began. You tell the tiger attacking you, hey, you, get over here. You must protect me. You must defend me. And this is what you say to your tiger tonight. Since it's 15 more minutes till an hour, I'll read a little bit more of Ionesco's journals and then I'm going to call it. Let's see, let's write a random page. Let's see, page 46 space because it's 46 minutes. Let's see what happens there. Okay. Knocks. I felt the first knock. It bent me. I felt the second knock. It did not break me. Then came the third knock. Next the fourth. Then came the fifth knock. Next came the sixth knock. Then came the seventh knock. Next came the eighth knock. Then came the ninth knock. Next came the 10th knock, a hard one. Then came the 11th knock, even harder. I came crashing down on all sides. Suddenly I felt the 13th knock, followed by the 14th. Then came the 15th. After that, the 16th. Then came the 17th. After that, the 18th. Then came the 19th knock. After that came the 20th. The 21st. I stopped my watch. According to Freud, 3 obstacles that prevent us from being free are anxiety, pity, and aversion. This is the threefold chain that binds us. We know, furthermore, that psychoanalysis includes no moral judgment. Things are like that, and that's all. We must simply know why they are like that, why they have got to this point. Psychoanalysis enlightens us, but does not judge. Psychoanalysis, moreover, explains why we pass judgment, but passes no judgment on our judgment either. But our chain is fourfold or even fivefold. Hatred or aggressiveness are equal hindrances to freedom. It might perhaps be said that hatred is merely an intensification of aversion. Desire is the most serious obstacle to our deliverance. Freudianism can thus, to some extent, be reconciled with Buddhism, not with Zen, for to wish to free oneself is still a form of will. One should seek to free oneself from wishing to attain the state when no one longer wishes to free oneself. The connection between Buddhism and the thought of Freud seems to me all the more convincing because Freud himself, toward the end of his life, discovered and asserted that we have within us, that our whole being bears within itself a death instinct, a longing for rest, the nirvana instinct, in the words of the great analyst himself. Desire, or eros, keeps us alive. If we succeeded in shedding light on desire, stripping the mystery from desire and all our desires, that's to say, from of all particular manifestations of desire, from the reasons and secrets of desire or of our desires, then desire would disappear. If we could learn the real less reasons for our reasons, there would no longer be any reason for anything. All knots would be slackened, and we would surrender ourselves and lapse into indifference and nothingness. Indifference would, moreover, allow us to live. That's to say, it might make life less unendurable. Not longing to live, not longing to die, just letting things drift. Zen or metaphysical, couldn't care less attitude. The ultimate implications of psychoanalysis are not far removed from Zen. Before learning how neither to live nor to die, the immediate problem facing me is learning how to die. This I've set myself. This is the moment, the last possible moment. What an undertaking. Before me, a huge wall, a cliff impossible to scale. It's vastly beyond my strength, today at any rate, and my duty is to climb over it, or else to pass through it. My deepest feeling bids me to do so, and I'm to believe my dreams. And what else is one to believe if not what dreams tell one? They are the expression of our innermost thoughts. To say that when you dream, you are not conscious is to speak loosely. One is only conscious, only lucid in dream. Thus I find myself in the middle of a square surrounded by ruined houses, dingily gray. The square was just a piece of waste ground full of withered bushwood and dry, shriveled thistles with no flowers. My wife was at my right hand. Before me rose up an enormous church, or rather, the very high wall of a sort of church, a wall almost as broad as it was high, like the wall of a great prison. On the right, low down, a tiny door closed. The wall of the church, which was blackish gray, was pitted with small holes of a lighter gray. Now it looked like a great vertical graveyard seen from a distance, as it might appear to a bird, except for being upright. On the left of this wall, on the left facing me, a very kind of high tower, summoned by a baroque cupola, perched on pillars, between which on all four sides I can glimpse the sky, or rather, an empty space, dreary and wan. You told me the church was beautiful. You see, that's not true. It's very ugly, on the contrary, my wife was adding. I noticed that before you did. Besides, it's Maurice's opinion, too, and he knows about such things. So we go left to the skirt of the building. Under the tower, there's a sort of passage leading to a grimy kitchen with holes in the walls, letting through the same wane of light that I noticed at the top of the tower. In front of the left wall stands the figure of a black figure of an old woman, the cook, in her black apron in front of the blackened wall, on which hanging kitchen utensils that are equally black. We pass the kitchen and find ourselves in a sloping field covered with the same tangled, withered vegetation under the drab sky. The X-ray reveals that you have the cancer of the heart. You were told your backaches were due to arthritis. This was untrue. The fact is, you really have cancer, but it has been reabsorbed and is now healed. Tell me the truth, doctor. You're a friend of mine. You mustn't lie to me. I'm capable of facing truth. All right, I'll tell you everything, but watch out. I'm going to tread on your toes. An odd expression, but that's how we put it. Since you really want to know, you've not had cancer. You've got it now. I try to master my panic. Here are the actual x-rays, the doctor says. The curved shape distorting the lower end of the heart. That's where the cancer is. See for yourself. I look at the heart. A black shadow shaped like a pear, the stalk and curving sideways round the heart of darkish space in which one could make out a little pale scars or scratches looking like those small white pieces of whalebone that are used to stiffen shirt collars. I make a great effort to conceal my anguish, for there are several people sitting around me, and I feel ashamed. And she is there. Among those people, a lighter, paler figure than the rest. She sits with her legs crossed on a stool, smoking a cigarette, and seems uninterested in my terror. I ask the doctor, how long can one live with cancer of the heart? 2, 3 months, or 2 or 3 years. It depends on the individual's vitality. More likely 2 months than 2 years, I told myself. One can't live longer than that with cancer, particularly of the heart. I plan to learn how to die. Alas, I've started too late. I shall never have time. It takes at least 2 or 3 years to learn about death, to loosen one's ties. Z, to whom I told this dream, said to me that the dread of dying concealed something else. He pointed out to me that the heart in the dream which he made me draw seemed to have been squeezed out of shape by some hand grasping it tightly. It is the inability to escape from the hand that grips me, inhibits one's, prevents one's aggressiveness, which is one's life, from finding an outlet that gives rise to this extreme, this mortal anxiety. So thank you, folks. It's about 6 minutes until an hour. Are there any comments or questions or requests for a quick reading of something else before I go? Excuse me. No. Okay. So with that, thanks for joining. Please share. Also, if you can like and subscribe, and yes, I do accept tips. If you'd like, you can send me that at Wana at Venmo or Cash App, or if you have my phone number, Zelle. So I do have a Substack right now. That's Artful Veritas on Substack, which is Substack, wana.substack.com. You can also find me on X quite a bit at my first name at Wana. Um, I would very much like to publish something, but I would really like to do it with actually a little more formal publisher and editor. But um, I've been writing forever, so. But please do let me know what you particularly liked. And if you really do like recitation work, one of my favorite things that I have on here is actually my recitation of Harrison Bergeron. I'm very proud of that. But also, there's some great work by Basil Pavel called Never Hope Against Hope, a few other things, and some Covidian satire, which is a lot of fun, I think. And you can find some more of my more exploratory things about the arts, excuse me, both on X as well as on Substack. And Substack, you could definitely subscribe. I would love that. Annual subscriptions as well as regular. And always open to anything else that interests people. I really love feedback. So thank you so much for joining me. And please do share. And remember, culture and politics are not up and downstream from each other. Culture is the stream, politics are embankments. So there is no point in a culture war. Let's just talk culture and preserve culture. So thanks for a little bit of this midnight sass. Thanks for joining me. Oh, and if you do follow me on Twitter, please say hi, or X rather.